Grief, anger, loss, frustration, anxiety, they're all part of living with chronic illness. Living with chronic illness is hard. It is freaking hard. I am coming up on 20 years living with MS. And over those years, I have ridden an emotional roller coaster. And today, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the emotions that I felt over the years and some of the skills I've developed to help handle those emotions. And I'd like to share some tips with you that maybe will help you on your journey. I do four things that help me to live well with my MS. I eat a predominantly whole food plant based diet. I exercise every day. I try to get good sleep. And I practice kindness in the forms of compassion and mindfulness. And today I'm going to focus on that fourth thing and talk a little bit about how I have learned how to process my emotions over the years and how I have developed some skills to help me deal with those emotions. So, back in 2006, when I had my first discernible relapse, I was really scared. I didn't know what was going on with my body, and I developed foot drop over the course of a weekend. And I went to a bunch of doctors that week, and I ended up in the hospital the next weekend under the care of a neurosurgeon because they thought what they saw on the MRI was a tumor in my neck. And that was really, really frightening. And it turns out it wasn't a tumor, it was a lesion. So my neurosurgeon turned me over to a neurologist, and they did all kinds of tests and a lumbar puncture. And it was a really frightening, frightening time. And they couldn't diagnose MS at that time. So there was a lot of uncertainty as well. So I had fear and I had uncertainty. And after I got out of the hospital, I went on a fact finding tour. I went and looked up all I could on multiple sclerosis because I really didn't know much about it back then. And I'm a very analytical person. If there's a problem to be solved, I want all the data. I need all the information so I can solve that problem. And even though I wasn't diagnosed yet, I just wanted to learn about it. And what I learned was MS is a progressive, degenerative, incurable disease. That's where I read everywhere. It was on the MS Society webpage, it was on medical journals, it was in research papers, and it was really scary. And I was in a really, really dark place. And I think that is part of our journey. It's okay to be scared. And it's okay to have those emotions. And it's really, really normal. Since that time, I have read tons of information on this. And they say it can take a year or two for us to really process those emotions. So it's okay to acknowledge that we're scared and to go through those stages of grief. So that's the first thing. It's okay to acknowledge and process. The next thing I did was to build a support system. My husband and my family and my friends and my doctors, they're all part of my support system. My puppy, I had a different dog at that time. This is Bungie. This is Bungie the blue healer. He's part of my support system. Having that support system in place is really important. And leaning on others for help was important to me. The next thing that I did was to practice self-care. Like I said, I'm a very analytical person. So I said, okay, my body is sick and I need to fix this. And I started looking at all the things that I could do to help myself. And even though I wasn't diagnosed, I started to take better care of myself. I started to eat better. I started to move better. One of the things I did was go to a yoga class because even though the steroids helped my drop foot, it wasn't gone. And balance was a problem and walking was a problem. So I went to yoga and started practicing yoga and doing those functional moves over and over and over again. Over time, my foot drop got better. But I also discovered mindfulness at that time. At the yoga studio I went to, they had a 30-minute mindfulness class at lunchtime, and I started going to this, and it was amazing. Just taking a few minutes out of my day to breathe and be centered and to be in that moment and really figure out what I was feeling in that moment was so helpful to me. I found that I was spending a lot of time worrying about the future or guilty about the past. What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my family? What did I do wrong to cause this? What could I have done in the past to help myself not have this happen? And I found that the more mindful I became and the more present I became, I figured out I was doing pretty good. I was feeling pretty good. The steroids helped the foot drop. The yoga helped the foot drop. My new neurologist was really supportive. My family and friends were really supportive. I was in an okay place. And learning to accept that, hey, I'm okay was good. It was a really good thing. So, taking that time to care for myself and eating better and exercising better and being present in the present moment was really, really helpful to me. Learning about my illness was also really helpful to me. When I first heard MS, I immediately thought, oh, that wheelchair disease. Did any of you think that? Let me know in the comments below. Yeah, I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna end up in a wheelchair, that's what's gonna happen," and all the scary scenarios that went along with that, I wouldn't be able to work, I wouldn't be able to do things with my family, I wouldn't be able to help support my family financially, I went down that road, um, but the more I learned about my illness, the more I realized that's probably not gonna happen. I think the statistics now are 70% of people with MS never need a mobility aid at all. So I got past that by learning and figuring out, oh, what is this that I have and how could it affect me and what's the likelihood of that happening? So learning about my illness was really, really helpful to me as well. We also know a lot more about diet and lifestyle changes that can help us to manage our symptoms and possibly prevent progression. And I have learned over the years so much about how whatever we consume can support our bodies or harm our bodies. So, consume the things that are good for us. And also to focus on what we can control. I can control what I eat. I can control how I move to keep my body as strong and flexible as I can. And getting good sleep every night. These are all things that I can control. And making sure that I'm practicing mindfulness and being centered and focused on today, right here, right now, and the things that I can do today is really helpful to me. And practicing compassion. This is an interesting one because it is compassion for others, but also compassion for ourselves. Uh, Sometimes we can be really hard on ourselves and get down on ourselves and all the things that we can't do, or all the things that we used to be able to do that we can't do anymore. And that is not helpful for us. I like to say, think of someone that you really love, like you really, really love. It can be a child or a spouse or a best friend, and think of them living with a chronic illness and all the things that you would do to support them and how compassionate you would be to them. And then turn it around to yourself and look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm going to do those things for myself. I am going to practice self compassion and also compassion for others. Many in our circles and in our families don't understand, and they're fearful as well. So being compassionate to them and being kind to them is really important. A lot of times I would get frustrated when people would give me advice. Have you seen this article? Have you heard about this herb? There's this person in England who cured her MS. There's another person who no longer has symptoms because they do A, B, and C. And I used to get really frustrated, or if they would give me articles on the newest drugs that are coming out and tell me the things that I should be doing or I ought to be doing. And it was really hard for me. But I started going to therapy after I got diagnosed. And my therapist is awesome. And she gave me some skills that really helped me a lot along the way. And one of those was to really think about the people that were offering me suggestions and advice and why they were doing it. And when you really get down to it, they're doing it because they like us or they love us. They're not trying to be mean. They're not trying to be rude. They're trying to be helpful. And they may not always deliver it in the best way. They are human, just like us. So it may not be delivered in a great way, but it is delivered out of a place of care and compassion. So taking it from that perspective makes it easier for us to handle. Um, when I get advice, depending on who I get it from, I respond in different ways. So it might be, "Oh, have you read this article?" And I could say, "Thanks, I haven't. I'll look into that." Or, "You really ought to try this drug." I can say, "Oh, thanks. My health team and I are really working on my care and my medications." Or, "Did you know that if you do this, you'll no longer have this disease?" You can just say, "Huh," and then change the subject. They genuinely do want to help us. They may not deliver it right. They may not know what they're talking about, but they do care for us. So, to wrap this up, it's okay to have all those emotions, the fear, the anxiety, the frustration, and the anger. And it's normal. And I would encourage you to be gentle with yourself. And it's okay to have those emotions. Just don't live there all the time. Be compassionate with yourself and be compassionate with others. And also to be mindful. Be mindful. Live here, right now, right here. Try not to worry so much about the future and savor what you have. What are your tips to deal with the emotional roller coaster of living with chronic illness? I would love to see what you guys do. Please put it in the comments below. I love to hear from my viewers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and also share my videos. It was really helpful to the channel. If you'd like to see more on living well with MS, watch these videos next. And until next time, be well.